Remember with story questions where we need to build an equation that we don't really need to build it from scratch. We're being given equations in the answer choices. So you can pretty much just use the choices that you're given and test them out against the story. Especially if you look at this and you're like, oh my gosh, 4 lines of text, that's a lot. I'm going to lose track. I don't know what's going on. It's too much to remember. Then don't worry about it. Do the question backwards and you're much more likely to understand the pieces that you need for the question. The first thing is, well, there's got to be some sort of number in front of this x, right? Is it 1.9? Is it 1.5? Is there nothing in front of it? Or is it 30.7? Well, let's go in. What does the x mean? We can kind of scan for that. I see it right here. X sandwiches. Okay, so x is the number of sandwiches. Well, what do we know about the sandwiches? Let's keep reading. Let's see what we get. An employee at a restaurant prepares sandwiches and salads. It takes the employee 1.5 minutes to prepare a sandwich and 1.9 minutes to prepare a salad. So just like that, it seems pretty obvious to me that I would need to connect the 1.5 with the x, and only one choice does that. That would be choice B. Now, before we settle on it, we can always just be like, okay, let's look at the rest. 1.9 to prepare a salad. Well, the salads were y, so that makes sense. And then the employee spends a total of 46.1 minutes preparing these things. So 46.1, it makes sense that we're doing 1.5 x plus 1.9y, right? That's the rate for each salad, each sandwich. And then the total would be adding them together, and that gives us the 46.1. I have no idea where 30.7 and 24.3 are coming from. I don't know what those are, so that doesn't make any sense to me. We can see in choice A that they're hoping that we confuse the x and the y and we put the numbers on the wrong things. And then C, you'd probably be skeptical of anyway because you're like, well, why did they give me the 1.5 and the 1.9? Those numbers probably get factored in somehow. And yes, that's an okay way to think about the SAT and PSAT math. It's very rare that they give us information we don't use. So especially in the easy module, the easy questions, you can kind of think that way of like, if I'm not using something, that's probably not a good sign. But yes, here we're also hitting on one of the more important ideas for algebra in general, the idea of a constant rate. And specifically, this is when we have a number multiplied by a variable. That number is called a coefficient. It usually represents some sort of rate. And so in this case, that's exactly how it sounds in the question. 1.5 minutes to prepare a sandwich, right? So each sandwich is 1.5 minutes. 1.5 minutes per sandwich, right? There's lots of ways we can say this that make it sound like a rate, and that's why when we multiply it, we're like, okay, for each sandwich then, we're gonna do 1.5. So 3 sandwiches, we would say, okay, 1.5 times 3, and that's exactly why it looks like multiplication. This is a key idea. In some cases, it kind of basically becomes the slope of a line. Here, I wouldn't think of it that way, but it's still the idea of a constant rate where we have this kind of multiplication, and lots of stories that we're given are going to involve this concept. So it's an important one to get comfortable with.